down to business.
When he drinks, he thinks.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the #1 liquid-fueled, liquid lubricated show on the interwebs. This is the Whiskey Musings Broadcast. And I am your sharp as a tack host, Rick. Why am I sharp as a tack? Well, let me just say I've been dealing with, some people over on X is now my favorite place to hang out, and I have been hanging out there and passing out some truth bombs. At the same time, though, I've been accused on multiple occasions that all I do is speak right-wing tropes and right-wing talking points. But hey, guess what? Of course they're right-wing. They are the truth. That's the way it works. Oh my gosh. All right, so let me go ahead and get a couple things out of the way. Of course, first one is tonight I am drinking the Four Roses single barrel. I don't have much left, but it does not include, of course, what's in my glass, because I already took care of that. And there it is in the True Grit Roots Network tumbler. I guess this is more of a rocks glass, I guess, not really a tumbler. But anyway, there with my whiskey stones, right there is some Four Roses. There we go. Great tasting stuff. Great tasting stuff. All right, let me go ahead. I got to give a quick shout out to Bobby Bivens on Facebook. It is his, I don't know. Follow, I'm pretty sure it's a her. Followversity over on Facebook. So, congratulations. Thank you for supporting the show. I do appreciate it. And definitely got to give a shout out to all the rest of the Whiskey Warrior P1s who are here every single week, sometimes every single episode. Most of the times it's every single episode, but I do understand you've got other things to do. I get it. It's not a problem. Not a problem. So okay. Day over on Rumble says that she's outside freezing just to watch me. Well, don't freeze yourself. I'm not that important, sweetheart. But thank you. I do appreciate that. Speaking of freezing, it's been freezing here. I know overnights we've been getting below, actually below 30 even. We've been hitting the high 20s. So it's really, really getting started. It's winter. It's winter. It's winter. That's what it is. Okay, so I've got, let's see. Let's do the quick rounds. I've got Tommy and Mark over on Facebook. Haven't seen Becky yet, but that's okay. She sometimes pops in later. I've got Daybreak, Bonnie, 3 Chevy, let's see, Coco Dominki, Buddy Weiser, Mark Ramones, Ramones, I don't know how that's pronounced. Anyway, welcome to the channel. And let's see, who else? Oh, Amy. Can't forget Amy. Cannot forget Amy. Now, we're not going to see Outlaw Dogs until later because, of course, her water moccasins, the unofficial mascot of the Whiskey Musings Broadcast, is starting up. She is doing her thing coaching. And so she'll be joining later, and that's awesome. All right. So I've got a great jam-packed show for you tonight with a bunch of things to discuss. I also have a fantastic pet of the week, a bit of unusual pet of the week for sure. But also I also have some of the whiskey on the road. Whiskey on the Road, which basically is, you guys taking either my logo gear or that famous button. Where's that button? The famous button right here, the Whiskey Warrior button, out on the road. I've got some pictures for that here coming up right quick. But let's get this out of the way. Of course, my sponsor. Oh, not that. Wrong button. Here we go. Let me go ahead and get TGRN because this is Wednesday. So Wednesday is TGRN night. Let me tell you about a show, awesome show on TGRN Blues called From the Delta to the Beale, or From the Delta to Beale. And From the Delta to Beale showcases the music. Hang on just a second. I'm getting... hold on just a moment. I'm going to take a quick second to go and let Mrs. Whiskey into the studio. She apparently left her keys. Don't ask me why, but I will be right back. Stand by. Okay. Where was I? He's undone. That's what I have to do. All kinds of crazy.
Sorry, everybody.
Yeah. She left the keys. She left the keys. Anyway, okay, so here we go. Oh, let's get back to the show. All right. So let me tell you about the Delta to the Beale. From the Delta to Beale showcases the music creators with roots in the Mississippi Delta and their pilgrimage to Memphis, Tennessee, which is the home of the blues and the birthplace of rock and roll, featuring music from the original craftsmen of this iconic sound like Son House, Willie Dixon, and the godfather of Delta blues, Charlie Patton, to those that followed in their footsteps like B.B. King, Ike Turner, and the Memphis Juke Band. We explore we explore music from Memphis blues labels such as Sun Studios and Stax Records that spread their influence up the mighty Mississippi to St. Louis and Chicago and west to Texas. From the Delta to Beale captures the humble beginnings of the blues of the Dirty Delta to its widespread impact across the U.S. and beyond. From the Delta to Beale is hosted by Memphis Mark, and it has its original playtime is on Fridays from 10 p.m. till midnight Central Time, and on Saturdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central Time. From the Delta to Beale, right here on True Grit Roots Network Blues, TGRN Blues, out of Austin, Texas. And of course, I am a part owner in that organization. So there you go. Sorry about that interruption, but that's what happens sometimes with live shows. All right. So the biggest thing that has happened, of course, is the fact that what I think is the biggest thing that happened this week is the fact that Hunter Biden has agreed to testify before the House Oversight Committee. Now, as you recall, the House Oversight Committee is taking a look into the Biden family and how they made all their money, from all of those things from overseas. And so they subpoenaed Hunter Biden in November. Now, the hearing itself is expected to take place on December 13th. Now, one of the things, of course, that happened, and let me go ahead and bring this up. One of the things that happened, of course, is the fact that Hunter Biden has, or his lawyers, I should say, have requested that he testify in a public hearing. He doesn't want to testify behind closed doors. And you know, one of the things so first of all, you know, Comer basically said, no, we're not going to do that, which, you know, that immediately took all the leftists and just, you know, threw them into a tizzy because they were like, well, what have they got to hide? Why are they trying to, you know, he could say something behind closed doors and it could be misconstrued and then spread throughout the world as a falsehood and blah, blah, blah. Well, the thing about it is that a lot of people don't understand is that there is the potential that they could be asking, the committee members could be asking questions of a sensitive nature. And one of the challenges, of course, with having a public trial is that when you ask sensitive questions, you're not going to get the answers because they are sensitive. And so, you know, there are some things that they may want to talk about in the committee without revealing all of this to public disclosure and public information. At least not in terms of like in front of the cameras or whatever. So that's the first thing that we need to, you know, consider. The other thing is that the House Oversight Committee, Comer in particular, said we're not going to treat Hunter Biden anything special. And you know, Jamie Raskin, of course, the just one of the idiot Democrats, he immediately popped up and said, basically said, well, there's no reason why you can't do this. Well, the thing about it is that Jamie Raskin forgets, because his mind is about the size of a pea, is the fact that when they were talking about subpoenaing or having subpoenaed Trump people, he wanted to put them, or they wanted to go with public trials for the exact same reason that Hunter Biden was saying, which is essentially that they wanted him out in public, and he told them, no, not without being deposed in private first. So, you know, Jamie Raskin, typical Democrat way, is basically saying, no, you know, I will change the rules, or I want the rules to change based on where I think things are sitting. Now, one thing that's kind of interesting with this is that this kind of signifies a little bit of a change in tactics. Now, if you recall, when the Hunter Biden laptop first came out back in October of 2020, and by the way, I've been hit on X multiple times about this, and the facts are that the Hunter Biden laptop got dropped off by someone, because we don't know for certain. The shopkeeper, I think his name's Isaacs, basically couldn't identify Hunter Biden clearly. But the laptop was dropped off by an individual in April 2019. And we also know, based on the testimony of the IRS agent Shapley, that the FBI had verified the fact that it was Hunter's laptop, and they also had a forensic analysis done that essentially said that none of the contents appeared to be tampered with. And that verification came out in November of 2019. And so if you think about that, so let's just say the laptop's dropped off in April, doesn't get completely fixed until May. So May, June, July, August. And let's say it got handed over September, October timeframe. they have it for a month and they validate everything by November. Well, one of the things that happened on X is somebody was like, well, how do we know that, Rudy didn't change anything or whatever? And the thing about it is that they forget to understand, that the laptop was given to the FBI. And granted, we don't know timing as far as when it was given to the FBI versus when, the Trump team got a hold of it. But the fact of the matter is that, because we don't know that, you can't pick and choose. You can't say that Rudy had it first and then the FBI had it, or vice versa. In fact, more than likely what happened was the FBI and Rudy might have gotten it at about the same time. But still, that does not negate the fact, regardless of the timing, it doesn't negate the fact that the information on it that the laptop contained, the information on it was validated to be Hunter Biden's laptop, and it was validated by the FBI, a forensic analysis, to be the fact that it was not tampered with. Now, the challenge that was thrown out by the original poster on X had to deal with the manufacture date of the hard drive that was in the laptop in comparison to the manufacture date of the laptop itself. And I simply put out there, being a IT person in my normal life, I simply put out there that the possibility that the laptop hard drive was replaced based off of the fact that the receipt that was given indicated that data recovery was what the laptop was in for, that there was a good possibility that the drive itself was bad and that the drive went ahead and was replaced by the repair shop in order to bring the laptop back up to standard condition. And that, of course, was immediately, there were, again, leftists who don't understand technology at all, especially computers. And they were like, no, that isn't the case, blah, blah, blah. It was $85 for pulling off the data and so on and so forth. And then, of course, the argument was, well, why was he poking around in the data anyway? Look, people, I've recovered hard drives before. Okay. I have replaced hard drives in my own machines as well as other people's machines. And the way that you do it is you have to validate or verify at least a percentage or a portion of the files in order to ensure that they were not corrupted, that they actually got recovered. And the reason being is because sometimes you can get a file that isn't recovered all the way and corrupted and won't open. And so my guess is that the repair shop owner opened up a few of the files, realized what he was looking at, and said, yeah, this needs to be taken a look at by law enforcement, and went ahead and did what he was supposed to do. Now, I do recall an article or a report somewhere that basically said that he waited for a little while, and when he didn't hear anything back from the FBI, that's when he passed the information off to Rudy Giuliani. But of course, that's hearsay or whatever, so I can't confirm that. There isn't any articles that actually talks about that. But the other piece of information that would bring us to the point of understanding that it is Hunter's laptop is the fact that Hunter, not too long ago, went ahead and sued the owner of the shop by, in civil court, by saying that he took his private files and plastered them all over the internet. So now, if that isn't admission enough to know that the information contained within that's been running around is actually his, honestly, I don't know what to tell you. If you're really not going to look at that and understand that, then yeah, it just, it's one of those things that I'm just, I can't, again, this kind of harkens back to my PTSD, episode. It's just one of those things that I'm just amazed at the stupidity, and the ignorance and the wanting to shove their heads in the sand on this, that is just beyond my comprehension. Now, Hunter Biden's new lawyer, so that's the first thing, is that he got a new lawyer, and because the time that he got the new lawyer, they went ahead and have changed their tactics, and so they are going on the offensive. Now, one of the things, like I just said, was trying to make the congressional deposition, I guess is the best way to say it, the congressional deposition a public affair, and then of course going after the shopkeeper for the laptop. And there's a few other things, like Hunter is trying or attempting. He's attempting to sue David Weiss for the inquiry, or for the inquiry into his gun charge and his not paying his taxes. He also is he's attempting to subpoena Trump. Why, I'm not quite sure. I'm not clear on that, but yeah, he's going after Trump to try and bring them in. Well, this isn't actually sitting with the Biden campaign very well. They're kind of a split decision on this. And this article came out in the Daily Caller. It's actually a pull from the Politico article about the exact same thing, but I'm just going to kind of run it, which, by the way, I do have the Politico piece right here. And I also have that in the description. You can go down and find the link to pull it out. But one of the things they're kind of divided. Biden's aides and other Democrat operatives are divided on the Hunter Biden's legal strategy for what's going on. The first thing, of course, is that most of them, Biden advisors, a lot of Biden advisors are afraid that this is going to bring, because, it's a Biden name, this is going to bring more attention to Hunter Biden, and therefore, at the same time, bring more attention to his father and their dealings in Ukraine and the business dealings, the China, kind of in a sense, think of it's bringing more credence to the House Oversight Committee's inquiry. And this is where a lot of people think that the more attention that you end up with on Hunter Biden, the more attention you bring to Joe, which is not something that they want. They don't want Joe to have that kind of attention, because if you remember in 2020, he was able to just sit in his basement doing nothing, occasionally putting out some videos or whatever, and occasionally using, some racial slurs and stuff like that while he was campaigning from his basement. And that's kind of what they're thinking that they might want to do. Now, the other campaign people, or the other advisors, are essentially saying that he should go on the attack, that it needs to be more aggressive, because of the fact that the American people seem to be responding, given the whole Trump strategy. The American people right now seem to be responding from someone who is willing to fight and defend themselves. And so that's where they're at, is they're kind of going back and forth. Now, the Politico, if you remember correctly, or if you remember, I always tell you that Politico is a great place to go to get an idea of what the left is thinking about and what the left is going to be focused on. And unfortunately, with this article, honestly, I really got a 50-50 vibe from it. It was very strange, because most of the time Politico goes and takes a stance, and, and they essentially tell you, maybe not in terms of all words, but in terms of the tone that they write the article in, gives you an idea that of their stance on things, if they don't just go and outright say it. But this article, ironically, at least in my mind, well, as I was reading it, I wasn't getting that vibe. I wasn't getting that feeling. And it was more like they're sort of in a 50-50 sort of mode. They're sort of a house divided in something like that. And so this is going to be interesting to see this play out, especially over the fact that, again, December 13th, that's just a couple of weeks away. If that, a couple of weeks away. And so, yeah, we're going to see. We're going to see what's going to happen here. Something definitely to pay attention to. All right. Okay. Well, obviously, the White House and, the polls have been coming out all over the place about Joe Biden, and Joe Biden polling really, really low. I think he was in like the mid to high 30s. All of these things that are going on with everything that is happening with the economy and everything going on in the Middle East and all these other issues and problems. Well, the White House has been ironically kind of in denial mode. They keep talking about how things are going great, things are stellar, the economy is awesome, so on and so forth. And so they were essentially kind of asked, essentially asking the question in terms of whether or not Biden had any kind of planned strategy or changes to be made in his campaign, given the fact that we are looking at, the fact that he's really polling very badly in all the polls that actually are a little more honest than most. And so what ended up happening, let me go ahead and bring this up. This is in the Washington Examiner. And of course, just like usual, the White House kind of danced around it. Karine Jean-Pierre said, quote, "Well, I can't speak to people's personal decisions. We don't have anything to announce at this time. We're going to continue to do the work that the president set out to do. And we just talked about supply chains. We just talked about the economy, where we've been talking about the president's leadership globally, especially in the Middle East. That's what we're here to do and focus on. That's what I'm here to do, to focus on. I just can't speak to people's decisions." So are they going to change things up? I don't know. Honestly, don't know. And I don't even think they know, because I honestly believe that they're trying to figure out what the heck happened, that Bidenomics is not polling very well with people. And they're just having all kinds of issues with is what's happening here. So we'll just have to kind of see. And of course, the polls are even showing like Trump beating Biden by, 2, 3, 4 points in some key states. And there's some serious questions in terms of whether or not Biden is actually going to be able to pull some of the states that he carried in 2020. And so, yeah, and especially because of the fact, I don't know if anybody saw this. Now, I don't have an article on this, but there was one of the founding members of Black Lives Matter was on a interview on Fox News, and the Fox News host asked him basically flat out if he was supporting Biden or Trump. And the answer pretty much was, I'm supporting Trump because Biden has not done anything for us. He hasn't helped us. He's been, the Democrats have lied to us. And we're starting to see a shift in the black vote. He said that he stumps for Trump. Tommy, thank you for bringing that out. Tommy, of course, says, he said, I stump for Trump. And one of the things that I think a lot of people really don't understand is that Biden, the Democrat coalition that usually goes around and, does all of these things The Democrat coalition is typically, rock solid. Well, this year it appears to be kind of breaking up. And so all we need is realistically is anywhere from like 12 to maybe 17% of the black vote to come to the Republican side, and that will tank Biden completely. And I think this is part of the reason why they're getting upset about all of this. But hey, listen, let me take a quick break and tell you about the Whiskey Musings Logo Gear Store. Hey, if you want to support the program and you want to get some great gear with, my logo and also my saying, when I drink, I think on it, go and check out store.whiskeymusings.online. And as a special gift to you between now and Christmas, I am giving you 15% off your entire order at checkout if you use promo code Christmas. That's Christmas, all capital letters, as the promo code when you're checking out, and you will get 15% off your entire order, and that is my Christmas gift to you. Go to store.whiskeymusings.online and check out all of these fantastic items. I've got glasses, cups, water bottles, aprons, sweatshirts, t-shirts, tank tops, all kinds of things that are, that's interesting. All kinds of things I've got that are available here. The popular ones, of course, are the hoodies and sweatshirts. These things are extremely popular. Check that out. Even if you don't like hoodies, if you like a regular crew neck sweatshirt, you can go and get the When I Think I Drink Whiskey Musings in either black or white. For the ladies, I have some cut crop top. This is a crop top hoodie right here that's changing letters. And I have it both in white and black. I also have the same thing with my logo on it. But go and check it out. Store.whiskeymusings.online. Use promo code Christmas, all capital letters, at checkout, and receive 15% off your order. My Christmas gift to you. That's store.whiskeymusings.online. And I thank you for going and supporting the show and of course checking all of that out for me. It's just, you guys are just absolutely awesome when it comes to stuff like that. All right, so I don't think anybody has seen this. In fact, I didn't even see this until recently, but I've been getting into arguments with people with regards to gas prices. You know how the gas prices, they've been touting, they've been coming down. Well, I put on social media, of course, I put on a chart that essentially showed gas prices are really not below what they were under the entire Trump presidency. They, in fact, the Trump presidency just barely ticked where we are at today, or at least their lowest point that it was last week, at like $2.32 a gallon on average. And the comparison between the two in that graphic was pretty stark, because you had the left side, which was the Obama era, that had a big hump in it. And then you had the right side, which was the Biden era, that had a big hump on it. And everything that was in between, that was the Trump era, didn't even reach the line that Biden was touting as being, this is the lowest gas that we've seen since 2020. And actually, that was even false, because it was lowered in 2020. But one of the things that's been questioning as to why, if we have embargoes on, Russian oil and Chinese oil and Iranian oil, and we have all of these, embargoes and stuff, and the Saudis and OPEC are not increasing their production, then why is it that they can even say that, oil prices are falling and that this is great and wonderful? Well, obviously the mainstream media is not going to cover it, but hey, our buddies over at Breitbart did. And this is actually coming from CNBC, believe it or not, which was a short clip. But Breitbart caught it and decided to toss it out here. CNBC, let's see, has a Squawk Box co-host, Becky Quick, and she stated that while the U.S. actually has sanctions on Iran, the Biden administration has acknowledged that they're going to continue to allow Iranian oil to be sold elsewhere because they don't want oil prices to go up. Don't want oil prices to go up. So they're allowing Iran to sell oil. I mean, really? Okay. Troll alert. Getting rid of the troll. There we go. Sorry about that. Bye-bye, troll. So anyway, I didn't know this. And so this actually even begs the question. This actually begs the question too. If they're allowing Iran to sell, what about China? What about Russia? What about those countries? What about other countries that we might have embargoes or sanctions on? What about them? So Biden is telling everybody that he's got these things going on and that he's the one that's like lowering gas prices. But this is just nuts. I mean, this is sorry. Quick stated a little bit later in the program. Well, here actually, let me just pop this out. Helena Croft, or Helima Croft, I should say, said Iranian exports have grown this year. They've grown significantly. So is the Biden administration going to come under increasing pressure to tighten the Iran sanctions? Now, Amos Hotchinstein, Hochstein, was out basically saying that we're going to have tougher enforcement. But what are those Iran numbers going to actually look like? That's a very important wild card, I think, for next year in terms of market balances. And Quick stated, look, with the Iranian sanctions, though, let's just be clear. The United States has said, okay, we have these sanctions, but it's basically been acknowledged that they're going to continue to allow that oil to be sold elsewhere because they don't want, the United States politicians don't want oil prices going up either. Because it really ticks off voters when to be paying more at the pump, especially in an election year. So, yeah. Biden's allowed it, folks. He's lying through his teeth. Biden is allowing it to happen. And he's doing it with the regime, by the way, too, that just went through and freaking attacked through a third party, attacked Israel, killed 1,200. I think they lowered the number. I know it was originally like close to 1,400, but now they're down to 1,200 and everything else. This administration is a garbage dump. Well, what's Biden's latest brainstorm to try and reduce prices? Because he has to reduce prices for 2024. Okay. But his latest brainstorm to do this is to, let's see, what did he say? He's going to break the rules and use the Defense Production Act. This time in an attempt to forcibly increase the domestic production levels of medicines to drive down drug prescription prices. Nobody seems to be moving to stop this abuse of the DPA because it's all being done under a declaration of a national security threat caused by prescription drug costs. So, in other words, what's happening here is that he's skirting the Constitution again by ruling by executive fiat, which I took a lot of hits on X and other social media outlets because of calling that out, saying that Biden is actually the non-constitutional president, and that Biden is the one that's sidestepping the Constitution all the time with, the whole thing about the First Amendment and using non-government entities to go up and censor speech and that kind of stuff. And then, of course, sidestepping the Constitution and the way our government works in order to rule by executive fiat. Not to mention, the whole bribery thing that he's got going on. And so, yeah, I'm sorry, but nobody is going to be able to tell me that Trump is worse than Biden at this point, because Biden is essentially ruling with let's say an iron fist. But he's certainly using laws in ways that he really shouldn't. And he needs to get out of this. And of course, by him doing all of these things and everything else that he's dealing with, and everything else that he is attempting to do, behind the backs of everybody, by the way, the other thing that's happening too is that our deficit and our debt has been rising like crazy. I mean, we're looking at $3 trillion just this year added to the deficit, which of course will become our debt later. And just so you guys really and truly understand what's going on with this. So I'm gonna try and cover this as succinctly as I possibly can here. But government doesn't produce anything when it comes to money, or when it comes to, actually any kind of goods and services. All right. Government does not produce anything. And so therefore, they really don't have a way to produce any kind of revenue without a couple of things like printing money, borrowing, and then, of course, there's always the taxpayers and taxing us more. Those are the three things that government can do in order to increase its supposed income. Well, right now, taxing people probably isn't the best idea, although they already, repealed the tax cuts, the Trump tax cuts, which benefited everybody, especially the middle class. The middle class got the biggest cut for that. But the other thing that they've been doing is they've been printing money like crazy. And, of course, now they're in the point where they have to finance it. Well, this came out, and this is a hat tip actually to Dan Bongino, who popped this out for us. But apparently, according to this article in Semaphore, nobody's wanting to buy U.S. Treasury bonds. Now, this is a problem because this is actually how the government borrows the money. Okay. And the thing about it is that what the government does in order to try and raise money is they sell out U.S. Treasury bonds. And then, of course, they put a interest rate on that because they're basically borrowing money from whoever buys the bond, and they need to go and pay that back at a certain time after, whether it's a 10-year bond, a 20-year bond, whatever. Okay. And what ends up happening is they have to have somebody to go and buy those bonds. Well, because of our credit rating drops that we've had two organizations that have lowered our credit rating, and I've talked about that. People are no longer as confident in the U.S.'s ability to pay those bonds back. And so now nobody is wanting to buy the bonds. There's too many. There's also too much of the supply of the bonds because we keep issuing bonds in order to, based off of our debt. And there's not enough demand to try and buy the bonds up. And so this has created the worst stretch, according to the article, for U.S. government bonds since the Civil War. Now, just take a look at this chart here. And if you're not watching, if you're listening to the audio, you got to go over to Rumble and take a look. But this is how the bond route, our current bond route, which is in the blue in this chart, stacks up to the past bear markets. Now, we had the 2008 stock market crash. We had the .com bust. Both of those are shorter time periods. They've fallen a little bit lower at certain places than where the Treasury bonds are now, but the Treasury bonds are going much longer, days from their peak. Just to give you an idea, the 2008 stocks were roughly around 375 days from their peak to their bottom. The .com bust went about 630, let's just guess. And now the Treasury bonds, as of now, days from their peak purchasing and everything else, is still going. I mean, it's beyond, like, it's probably at right around 900 days. And it's been just dropping and dropping and dropping in terms of how nobody's buying them. Nobody's buying them. And the government itself, of course, is borrowing more than expected, increasing the supply of the treasuries, the bonds, and digging their value. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve is selling down its own holdings, dumping yet more bonds into a market that doesn't really want them. Goldman Sachs' Jim Esposito said this week, there's just a lot less demand than there was even 6 months ago. You can buy a 6-month T-bill that's yielding north of 5%. Why wouldn't you buy that instead of a long bond that's yielding 4 3/4%? Well, nobody's buying them anyway. I mean, and this is really going to be a problem because if we're not able to, if you recall what watching and listening in terms of like the World War II stuff, in order to be able to raise the money that we needed to get World War II into, or to get the money to put us into World War II. And this is one of the things that actually a lot of people, a lot of experts and historians have all said. It's not the fact that we necessarily had, meaning the U.S., necessarily had the best technology, the best equipment, the most men, that kind of stuff. It was more often than not, we ended up outspending everybody else when it came to our wars. And this is still true to this day, at least up until the moment that we're dealing with right now. So we are in a very sticky situation when it comes to this, because if we can't sell our bonds, we can't raise money. We can't raise money. We can't pay our bills. If we can't pay our bills, we're going to end up in a bankruptcy. And as of right now, nobody wants to buy our bearer bonds or our treasury bonds. Nobody wants to buy them. And so we are in a very bad catch-22, people. I'm telling you this right now. We are in a very, very scary situation when it comes to this kind of stuff. And yeah, this is just sad. So here's the contributions, just as a graph here. Here's a contributions of the U.S. budget deficit. So you have revenue and non-interest spending, which is in the light blue, and then the dark blue is interest on the debt. And this is the other part that you can see where the dark blue is much longer line and is growing longer and longer and longer as you go up, because this chart covers from 2020, which is today, up to, or, 2020-ish. We're in 2023, so they don't have the actual number or have the actual 2023 listed here, but you can see how our interest on our debt is growing much greater than the revenue and non-interest spending. And our normal reliable buyers of treasury bonds, China and Japan, they've actually been selling them because their currencies are starting to weaken. As an example here from the piece, a decade ago, they held more than 22% of the U.S. government bonds. Today, it's only 7%. This is scary. This is dangerous and bad. The Ukraine war has dampened demand among Eastern European buyers, according to Steve Ricciuto, chief U.S. economist at a company called Mizuho. Increasing U.S. oil production means fewer petrol dollars in the Middle East to be reinvested through the Treasury market. And U.S. banks are also stepping back. We're in a very bad situation here, folks, and Biden is not doing us any favors. You know, I don't care how often some lunatic leftist wants to sit there and discuss the whole thing about, oh, our GDP is up, oh, our unemployment is down. There are so many other factors that are going on about this that are being completely ignored by the Biden administration, the mainstream media, and everything else. They essentially are just going over and over and over, and they're glossing over all of the things that are actually counting right now. And this is what Americans are actually paying attention to, is the whole thing with the money. Now, CBS kind of slipped up. They actually put out this article that I'm about to show you here. Let's see, if it was 29th, which would have been today. So here's an article from CBS. Now, this is the thing, is that the leftist media is actually, they can't keep it back anymore. They cannot hold back the actual news, the truth. So here's the example. Here's the headlines, and this literally says all you need to know. Americans need an extra $11,400 today just to afford the basics. So all of you lefties, if you're watching this program, and if you are, that's because you're here to gain an education in the truth. Okay? But you don't seem to get it. I mean, yes, we can have, a good GDP. We can apparently we can have a low unemployment rate, but our interest rates and our inflation rate is destroying us. It has nothing to do with whether or not we have jobs. It has everything to do with whether or not you can afford what you need to buy. And according to this, Americans need an extra $11,400 today just to afford the basics. I've shared on my social media accounts, I've shared charts and graphs, and I've explained on this program the actual impacts of inflation. Inflation is a compounding thing. It is not just simply, oh, it's 3% bigger than last year, and we're going to go down to zero again come the next year. This is a cumulative effect. It's from the day that Joe Biden took office until now. There is an average of 18% increase across the board in all kinds of prices. There's just no way that you can sit here and tell me that Joe Biden and his spend ideals are going to help us out here. They're just not. We need to get this government back and check its checkbook. We need to get this government back to the point where it's no longer spending all this money. Okay. It's just, the jobs aren't paying more. The wages are down. Wages are actually down. The last number that I heard was down 3.8%. So not only is inflation going up, but you're also losing your wages. The amount that your dollar goes doesn't go as far as what it should. And that's what they're trying to tell you. Yeah. Yeah. So here's an example. Okay. In the piece here, it talks about average hourly pay for workers has increased a robust 13.6% since January of 2021. But that lags the 17% increase in inflation during the same period, according to government data. So it's real simple math here. Okay. Bear with me. Real simple math. But you take 17 and you remove 3.6 out of that 17, and you essentially have 3.4% difference. That's in the negative, folks. It's negative. I, as horrible as I can be at math, even I am able to figure that out. And that's exactly where we are today. That's why your paycheck is actually shrinking, because you're paying more for the crap that you're buying. And of course, it doesn't help when you see, the mainstream media tries to cover it up and starts saying stuff like, oh, well, the amount of money that's being spent for Black Friday, as an example, is greater than it was last year. Well, yeah, it's greater than it was last year, because last year we were in a lot higher inflation rate, but technically we're still at a higher inflation rate, and so on and so forth. It just amazes me and astounds me how stupid, realistically, these people are and can be, and why. I mean, we allow them to vote. That's really the scary part. Yeah, and actually, Coco Dominki says, price of lumber makes me sick. Yeah, I would agree. Oh, speaking of lumber, hey, just real quick, the cancel culture idiots are out trying to cancel Home Depot because of the fact that the Home Depot CEO came out in support of Trump. And so if you need to go somewhere to get something from a hardware perspective, try and support Home Depot. Try and support Home Depot by going there. We've got to stick with the whole idea of the parallel economy here, people. We must do the parallel economy. Okay. We can't be dealing with these people anymore. We got to hit them where it hurts, and we got to hit them in the pocketbook to make them go back to the idea that we need to pay attention and give money back to patriots and that type of stuff. Speaking also of Black Friday sales, there was, I don't know if you saw this, but there was a video running around where somebody went through into like Walmart and exposed the fact that the Black Friday sales price, flashy red and white and all this other stuff, on the sign and everything else. And when they pulled that sign out, the price was exactly the same as what it was the week prior. So apparently even the retail outlets have actually seen that they can no longer provide all these wonderful, deep dives in prices. They actually may, at least at some of them anyway, have manipulated their prices. And of course they do it through marketing and advertisement, with all of these flashy colors, and they make you think you're getting a good deal when you actually are not getting a good deal. So even like all the Black Friday stuff and everything else is just, just not that great. All right. So let me go ahead and get into take a quick break on this. If you want to help out the country and you want to help educate next year's or the next generation, I should say, of people behind, why don't you consider getting yourself and getting that individual that you're thinking of a Constitution? This Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution, copy of the U.S. Constitution, is a great keepsake item. It is also one of these wonderful things that you can give as gifts. They fit in your breast pocket and so on and so forth. It is just fantastic. Check this out. It's an 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather. When you open it up, these pages inside are tear resistant and water resistant. And just check out that binding. It goes all the way through the book itself. It goes all the way through the leather and everything else. It has what I'm being told are sexy rounded corners that, of course, everybody on Rumble talks about. It is buddy tested, buddy approved. It is verified that the information inside can have you pass a civics badge from the Scouts by my youngest Whiskey Warrior. Get yourself a pack of these, hand them out, put them in people's stockings. Your conservatives will love it. Your liberal friends, if you have any, will hate it and probably try to burn it. But go ahead and get this. You can buy it at constitution.whiskeymusings.online, constitution.whiskeymusings.online, and help support the show. And yes, 3 Chevy asks, are the amendments in numerical order? They are. I promise you. They are in numerical order. All 27 of them. So go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online and get your copy today. It has a 100-year warranty against materials and workmanship. If it falls apart or something goes wrong with it, you can, of course, you can go and you can actually go and send it back to them, and they'll either repair it or replace it for free. So again, go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online, and I do appreciate that to support the show. I've already been caught. Apparently, I look like I was black and white on the screen. Just real quick, folks, I changed out I bought a new camera because my old one wasn't giving me the proper color that I wanted, and it seems like the white balance is off. So every time I put up my hands, it changes and makes me look a lot less white. So yes. Anyway. Oh, all right. So let's go ahead, and this is a good time to go ahead and do tonight's pet of. Oh, let me get rid of this. Gotta get rid of that first. This is a good time for us to do the pet of the week. All right, and tonight's pet of the week was actually submitted a while ago. Okay. But it was actually submitted a while ago, and I just kind of been hanging on. The reason being is because the person who put it in, submitted it, basically said, hey, you can use this if you don't have one, just to cover things up. So, yeah, so here we go. Tonight's submission comes from 3 Chevy over on Rumble. And let me go ahead and get... I inadvertently showed you what I was going to go to next. But anyway, so 3 Chevy is very well known for his koi pond. Okay. And his koi pond is actually, I am impressed. I'm just going to say it straight up. I am extremely impressed about this man's koi fish. He really does a good job with this thing. You've got to check this out. So here it is to kind of take a look, and he has a waterfall. I don't know if you can see it. It's like right there. You can kind of see it's up further. I can't put my finger up too far because then it'll cut it off. But in his waterfall, he goes and cleans it out. And in this particular case, he says, and this is what he says here: "Hey, Whiskey, I was cleaning out my waterfall in my koi pond this week, and I discovered that I had 2 pets. I didn't even know I had. It seems 2 rather large frogs, and here's one of them. And there, of course, is what 3 Chevy looks like, folks. There he is. He is making an appearance here on the Whiskey Musings broadcast. But this is the frog that he found. And so he found that 2 of them, this is one of them, inside the water. They'd taken up residence inside the waterfall, and from the size, they had been there for a while. This is the larger of the 2, and he had to go and put him in a 5-gallon bucket, or a 5-gallon pail. They call them pails, I guess, where he comes from. But anyway, and when he pulled out the second one and was going to put it into the second bucket, the big one jumped out of the bucket or the pail, and 4 good hops later, he was across the yard and back into the water. Oh, 3 Chevy, being 3 Chevy, of course, asked his wife about having frog legs for dinner, but she said no. So I guess I continued to have 2 extra residents in my pond. Oh, I've had frog legs, and I wasn't, I mean, they were okay. I won't say that, believe me, don't taste, it doesn't taste like chicken. Oh, and by the way, 3 Chevy just told me it's a Home Depot bucket. Great. You're supporting Home Depot. That's wonderful. All right. So he continues here. He says, I've occasionally found smaller frogs or toads in the filter box where the water comes in, but never anything this large. Sometimes I would find little frogs with their back legs missing, courtesy of the larger fish that I used to have. And let's see, I can't remember. Is there any more? Yeah. So due to the larger fish that he used to have. He says, thanks again for all the work that goes into doing these broadcasts every week. And it's signed 3 Chevy. Well, 3 Chevy, I am just super impressed. I got to look at this again. Look at this. Look at this backyard. Oh my gosh. That is just incredibly impressive, sir. I'm awed by this. This is just fantastic. Beautiful backyard. Where you're at. I know that things like this can take a lot of work, especially keeping, clear water and stuff like that as you do in your pond, for your fish. It can be a lot of work, and that's just incredible. I'm so impressed. So thank you for doing this submission and allowing me to share this week's Pet of the Week. For it. If you want to see your pet, and it doesn't matter really what pet. Oh, I forgot to tell you too, by the way, this is 3 Chevy went and took the Whiskey Musings button. I showed you the button earlier. This one. I showed you the button earlier. The Whiskey Musings button on the road, and he sent this to me a while ago. I was going to share that with you as well. But hey, Whiskey, here's what he writes. He goes, hey, Whiskey, we took a short trip to where we used to live in St. Petersburg, and this time I remembered to bring your button along. First one was tonight's sunset, which was mostly cloudy, obviously, but that's okay. I like the beach. I like the beach. Beaches are fun. The second one here was taken in their favorite restaurant down on Madeira Beach. It's the best grouper on the beach. Can't say I've had grouper. Realistically, I can't say that. But bye-bye. I hate trolls. But anyway, so, can't say I've had grouper before, but, best grouper on the beach. I'll believe you. And then, he basically says, great show Saturday. Of course, this was a little while ago, but, great show Saturday, and thanks again for all that you do. I do appreciate that. I do. I appreciate all my Whiskey Warriors for that. And so, and by the way, he also went and saw the Trump National course in Jupiter, Florida, which isn't that far away apparently. But he forgot to bring the button when he went there. So anyway, so that's cool. So there you go. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You know, even though I don't show all of the photos that I get and stuff, I do appreciate seeing them. So once again, if you want your pet to be shown on Pet of the Week, send me an email with that pet, pictures of the pet and the pet's description, name, breed, whatever, story behind it. And you can send that to fans, FANS, at whiskeymusings.online. That's fans, FANS, at whiskeymusings.online. And I will get your pet in for Pet of the Week. I don't have any in the queue right now, so if you put one in, you will be on next Wednesday's Pet of the Week. Also, you can send questions for Whiskey for Saturday's show. That's the other segment that I do. Also at fans at whiskeymusings.online. You can also send those questions in to that email, fans at whiskeymusings.online. All right. So one of the things that has occurred, of course, is, and I don't know, you're seeing videos and things like that all over the web. You're seeing them on social media. People getting attacked and beaten up. You see people going into stores and they're just taking all kinds of money and everything else. And of course, you have the whole thing with defending yourself. Well, and the conversations about gun control measures. And I got into it on X. Seems to be a common theme here, but I got into it on X with a couple of people with regards to gun control and the Second Amendment and so on and so forth. And as I was perusing some of that, I ran across this wonderful article. This from Town Hall. Courts strike down gun control measures in 2 states. Now, this was from a couple of days ago on November 27th. But court decisions in 2 states struck down gun control laws pushed by Democrats in both Maryland and Oregon. Last week, a 3-judge panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals of the Fourth Circuit ruled that a law in Maryland that took effect in 2013 is actually unconstitutional, according to the Washington Post. The law required handgun buyers. And this is weird because most of the time lefties are going after the long-barreled ones. But handgun buyers who already went through background checks and waiting periods to obtain an additional handgun qualification license and have to wait up to 30 days to have that approved. Reportedly, this provision meant to deal with straw purchasers who bought guns on behalf of those who would not qualify to buy one. Which, I'm going to be honest with you, I think that happens a lot less than what people think. I mean, I don't know of anybody who is a gun owner, a legal gun owner, who would go and like jeopardize their ability to own guns by illegally buying another gun for somebody else. I just don't see that happening. I really don't. But anyway, so the Fourth Circuit judges said in their opinion Tuesday that the prospect of waiting 30 days for a permit abridged gun buyers' right to keep and bear arms. More than 315,700 permits have been issued by Maryland State Police since the law took effect, the agency said Tuesday. Law's waiting period could well be the critical time in which applicants expect to face danger, the appeals court stated. This makes it very clear that the state can't erect obstacles, said Mark Pennack, president of the Maryland Shall Issue and one of the plaintiffs who first challenged the gun licensing law in 2013. The right to keep and bear arms necessitates the ability to acquire them. You cannot keep and bear arms, that which you cannot acquire. And then in Oregon, an extreme gun control measure that Town Hall previously reported on was dealt a major setback. The Associated Press reported that that law, which was enacted by voters in 2022, violated the state constitution. The law required background checks and mandatory training in order to obtain a gun permit and banned high-capacity magazines. According to the AP, Measure 114 has been tied up in state and federal court since it was narrowly approved by voters last November. Now, keep in mind, Oregon is the one place that they approved drugs and are now regretting it. But anyway, the state law stemmed from a lawsuit filed by gun owners claiming the law violated the right to bear arms under the Oregon Constitution. The defendants included such Oregon officials as Democrat Governor Tina Kotek, Attorney General Ellen Roseblum, and State Police Superintendent Casey Cotting. They can appeal to the Oregon Court of Appeals, and the case could ultimately go to the Oregon Supreme Court. Rosenblum plans to appeal the ruling, her office said in an emailed statement. So anyway, they got turned over. But here's the thing, though, is that America and Americans are starting to realize and starting to feel like things are not going very well in terms of our safety. And this is being reflected in this article and this number from the Daily Caller. Americans buy guns in droves on Black Friday. Americans flocked to stores to buy guns on Black Friday, according to data provided by the National Shooting Sports Foundation on Monday. The FBI's National Instant Criminal Background Check System, or NICS, completed 680,671 firearm background checks during the week of Black Friday, according to the organization. The FBI's system executed 214,913 during the Black Friday holiday by itself. So a full 1/3 just during Black Friday. Background checks for the week surrounding Black Friday in 2022 were slightly higher, but this is keeping pace with, out of the months in between when Biden first got here in the pandemic, all the way up until now. There's only been 1 or 2 months that there hasn't been a million or more than a million NICS background checks. And so, yeah, this is becoming more and more of a problem. So these gun people, the gun control advocates who would keep sitting here saying that, we need to reduce the guns. Well, it's going to be kind of hard to reduce the guns when so many people are buying them. And there's a lot more first-time buyers. As you've seen ads or seen articles talking about the Jewish populations in Florida, first-time gun owners, they're doing this because of the fact that they are trying to protect the themselves from the crazies that we have running around here, whether it's criminals, whether it's the protesters that are out and about. Even violence in like high schools and stuff like that are starting to get worse and worse. There was a video that I saw of a pack of young kids in a school who attacked a 14-year-old and killed him. This isn't the one in Las Vegas, although that one is tragic as well. But this one was on the East Coast, I think, somewhere in the Carolinas, and they killed the kid inside the school in the gym. And so it really boils down to this, and it's sad that we're even having to discuss this, but this is the reality of where we are listening in. The right to self-defense has never been more important, according to this article in Town Hall. The world is a dangerous place, and it's getting even worse. Even in America, where we're blessed to live in relative peace compared to many other regions of the world, there are always threats to our safety and well-being. It's the reality that we must accept and prepare for. One place to start is to be equipped and trained as a responsible gun owner to protect ourselves and our families. Now, here's the thing that I basically say in terms of gun ownership, okay? You need to go and get trained. It doesn't help if you're going to just purchase the gun and not know how to use it. You need to go and get trained. If you have never handled a gun before, the importance of this is just amazing. Now, if you already are trained, you need to keep up with that training. You need to take it out every once in a while. You need to go and shoot at the range. You need to put some rounds through it. There are so many training things that you can get, like iTarget as an example, which is a patented laser round that you can put inside the weapon itself, and you can fire it at they have a phone app, and you can fire it at a target anywhere in your house for dry fire practice. Dry fire practice is really, really good. It helps to make it so that you're not aware necessarily of when that trigger is going to pop or when that round is going to fire, which is what you want. Okay. But you need to get trained. You need to practice. You need to understand, the rules with it. You need to handle the gun safely, and all of these things. You have to train. Now, at the same time, if you are not, if all you're doing is going to get a gun just because you think you need a gun, but you're afraid of the impacts of what can happen if you end up having to pull that gun, all right, then you don't need to be carrying a gun. Okay. Carrying a weapon is a big responsibility. And especially if you're carrying it every day and in public, it is a huge responsibility, because especially in today's day and age, if you happen to use that weapon and use it incorrectly, or in a situation that can get you into hot water legally, you need to be very, very well aware of what that is. It's a huge responsibility to do this, especially if you're going to carry in states where they have like concealed carry permits and things like that. Statistics have shown completely that if you are a firearms carrier, you are so much more conscious of the laws and getting yourself and keeping yourself out of trouble than you are trying to get into it. Unlike what a lot of these gun grabbers keep talking about. Just because you have a weapon doesn't mean that you go around looking for trouble. In fact, more often than not, if someone is carrying, they've interviewed these people. If someone is carrying, they will go out of their way to avoid trouble because of the magnitude of the decision to go ahead and pull that weapon in defense of themselves or someone that they love. It is very important. I mean, it's to me, it's one of the greatest things that we have in terms of our rights and responsibilities, but that's the key, is the responsibilities. We have to make sure that when you carry a weapon, okay, you have to be very, very cognizant of what's going on around you. Head on a swivel, pay attention to what's going on, avoiding trouble, because I guarantee you, as much as you, if you need it and you use it, thank God, you had it. But if you don't use it properly, or you use it in a way that is not copacetic with the laws, you're going to have problems. I guarantee it. You're going to have issues. And even if you do everything 100% right, expect to get arrested, expect to spend time in jail. There's that person down in, I think, California, who was they were going into their house. They were trying to unlock their door to their house, and they got approached by two men with guns trying to rob them. And the individual had no place to go. He had no place to go. And he was in a kill box. He essentially was able to distract them by throwing his coffee at them. And he was able to pull his weapon and use it. But he immediately had his concealed carry permit yanked from under him in California. So, again, if you're going to carry a weapon, just be very cognizant of the responsibility and accountability that you have with carrying that weapon. And if you have any squeamish issues at all with doing so and understanding the ramifications of what would happen if you were to, God forbid, have to take somebody else's life in defense of your own, if you do not understand that and don't appreciate the huge decision that you're making with this and understand its severity and its seriousness, then you don't need to be carrying. Now, as far as I'm concerned, people have talked about, whether you carry open carry or concealed, do whatever is comfortable for you. This is just my opinions. Do whatever is comfortable for you. But I personally, if I were to carry, you would not know that I was carrying because I'd rather be the snake that you don't know about rather than be the target that you do. So that's just my personal opinion. Throwing it out there. But anyway, the point is though, that our right to self-defense is going to be more and more important. Head on a swivel. These are going to be, these times they're going to get worse. They are going to get worse, folks. And unfortunately, it's a sad thing, but I think we're going to end up with a whole bunch of civil unrest. Wait until 2024. The closer we get to 2024, the things are going to get even worse. And so keep your head on a swivel, stay away from large gatherings and those kinds of, even now the Palestinian, Hamas supporters were talking about shutting down the tree lighting ceremony in New York. Now, whether or not that actually happened, I don't know, but they were talking about it, and there was a lot of chatter online about that. And so, you got to keep your head on a swivel. You got to keep your head on a swivel and be very, very cognizant of what's going on. It's your brain is your greatest. Your brain is going to be your greatest asset and greatest weapon in terms of all that. All right, so a couple of last minute things here, just real quick. Let's just call this like the last 2 minutes or whatever of the episode, but really quickly. For anyone that thinks that our government is not spying on you and not paying attention to you and everything else, check this out. This is from the Federalist. Apparently there was a warrant that was leaked or publicized from Special Counsel Jack Smith, his office, and apparently he sought info on anyone, okay, who favored or retweeted Trump's tweets. So anyone who interacted with Trump's account on X, Special Counsel Jack Smith hunted down information on those users. Now, you're telling me that we're not part of a surveillance state, that the government is not using non-governmental organizations in order to go after their political opponents? Here's a big example right here. Huge example. Also, if you think that our interest rates are going to be protected, like we're not going to go up anymore, well, Fed Governor Bowman says she expects more rate hikes. This is coming from Breitbart. But these are the Federal Reserve Governor Michelle Bowman said on Tuesday that she expects the central banks will have to hike rates further in order to bring inflation down to its 2% target. Now, for those of you that are younger that listen to this program, there was a period in the 80s where interest rates were actually in double digits. And the reason being is because they were essentially attempting to bring down to essentially bring down the double-digit inflation rate. That's the only check that they have on this, is to dry up the money supply, to get rid of inflation. So it's just going to get worse, people. It's just going to get worse. And that's extremely unfortunate. But I'm going to tell you, Biden and his spending policies, that's exactly why we have to get rid of Biden in 2024. All right, that is my final Whiskey Musings thought of the evening. Do me a favor, if you like the program, you like what I do, head on over to Rumble, the free speech alternative to YouTube, and subscribe or sign up first. Let me just sign up. And then the second thing is to find the Whiskey Musings Broadcast channel and hit that green follow button. Also, if you already have an account and you sign up, hit that thumbs up button, because apparently Rumble takes notice. And I would really appreciate it, supporting this channel and supporting the work that I do. Of course, I do it all for you guys. This is all for you. All right. We will see you Saturday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Whiskey Musings Broadcast channel. Have a great rest of your week. And good night, everybody.
The Whiskey Musings Broadcast is produced by Active Eye Media, LLC. All rights reserved.